Season 6, Episode 25, Number 243 of the Decoded Podcast. Chris Clough, good morning. Happy Saturday.
Good morning.
I have to tell you, I recently watched one of the videos I created on Decoded Podcast with your artwork.
Okay.
I dated it like June to whatever years, and it was just all your art
Mm-hmm.
just in a row. It
Mm-hmm.
was friggin' awesome. It made me think it would be epic if we had one right from the beginning up to today. But I know that I'm not holding my breath because I know you've got your art in certain places, you're doing certain things, and it would require more work from you than me to make that happen. So it was just a thought, but I really enjoy that video because you can see you just can see the different art from each week. And at that time, you were drawing on big paper. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like there was a lot of work, a lot of drawing going on. Not that there isn't now, but I know the work has gotten a little bit smaller, a little bit simpler in terms of it's more there's less quantity on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed that. That was fun for me.
Yeah, I've scaled back a little bit. I am aware that I've kind of scaled back a little bit on that. I think I don't know if it like I was as you're saying that I was trying to sort of relive my decision making because in some ways all the different sort of things that I've test driven, like the little different styles and stuff along the way. It's kind of funny because there's different elements that I've done some watercolor, done some marker, done some collage, done some painting. Haven't really delved into sculpture or actually like you say, so Clef, what have you made today? And I pull up like this, this mini sort of sculpture of something. I haven't gone that far, but hey, who knows? But it actually brings to mind just me uh, one of the things that I've thought about over this March break is a little bit like the evolution of my art as one of my creative outlets. So I like that you're bringing this in, you bring this into our conversation because it's nice to notice that things kind of change. And I know right now I'm in a far more minimalist kind of design stage, let's say. I think the composition has changed too. Like originally, it used to be a whole lot of like words and drawings and scribbles, and now I'm kind of being a little bit more cohesive. Like there's a singular thing, despite the singular thing that the actual art is, even though it still kind of represents some, you know, kind of complex thinking. So that's I like that you're kind of noticing that because it's definitely like that isn't intentional. Like I knew that I was shifting. I knew that I was shifting my drawing coming into this season. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But I can at some point, I haven't been scanning these things. I have a whole stack. I look over to the right and I have this red. Well, I'll show you. Why tell you? Show don't tell. That's a rule in the art world. Show don't tell. So here's the stack, and you can see it's starting to come over the top. Like that's full of all the little drawings that have happened from this season. And I'm trying to use up scrap paper as well. So some of these are just little extra bits, and some of them haven't actually survived very well this season. So, anyways, yeah, I like that. I like to sort of evolve. I think that's what I was poking at you the other day when I sent you that text about I'm craving some drone footage. I think that's probably I was messing with that a little bit because part of it is like I haven't seen any in a while. I haven't seen any drone footage videos. Now, just even as I say that, I'm also not like I'm not lurking your YouTube feed because I think in some ways you roll like I roll. You'll kind of just work on something and you'll post it up and just kind of move on. and then someone kind of finds it, and you're like, and you sort of look at the stamp date, and it's like, yeah, 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 I posted that up, I got it done. Sometimes you tell me, but then other times I think I've looked at your YouTube page, and there's something new posted there that you weren't hyping it all. You just post it up and away you go. So,
And when you said that about the drone footage, I thought, yeah, you know what? I should get out and get some drone footage just because it's fun, and I've forgotten how much fun that is. That's also sparked something interesting in me that I can share with you right now. Um, so yesterday, so I guess when you made that comment, I don't know if you made it a couple of days ago. It wasn't
mhm,
yesterday. I think maybe 2 days ago.
mhm,
Okay, so I created a I was able to participate in the Twitter space, the Be Stoic space on Thursday morning. It's a space every Tuesday and Thursday morning where they read the daily Stoic of that day, and then they discuss, and people jump in and share their thoughts. And um, you know, when I'm
it's
working,
good. It's good.
okay,
Yeah, I've caught it a couple times. I like it.
um, the two people who run it, Boggles. Sorry, I don't remember his real name right now, but his handle on Twitter is Boggles, and then Vic, the other guy that's with him that runs it. They co-host, and they're both very enthusiastic, and they're both very like, it's hilarious. I see them as two separate types of people, but we're all coming together to talk about stoicism and how it affects us and yada yada yada, the good stuffs, right? So they were talking about like, hey, if anybody wants to help out with anything, just hit us up and let us know. And I was just sitting on my rear end, and I was like, I'm gonna make a little ad. I'm gonna make like a little ad for them, like a commercial. So I make like I don't know, a 14-second video, which for me, as you know, is not a big deal because I can master the tool. I just needed an idea. So that did something to me because yesterday, as I'm going through my Twitter feed, I'm gonna pick one of my followers, and I'm gonna just look at their content, and I'm gonna make a video. Kind of like a la Clough, where you say to me, "Hey, DM me a couple of words, and I'll
Mhm,
write
mhm,
a poem." So I hit up one of my followers. It just so happens that he's in the army, but he's like a soldier, but he's also like an ultra runner, and he cares about his family, and kind of like an interesting specimen to create a video about. So I just hit him up. I'm like, "Hey, um, like since he started following me, we've talked a little bit. Like, hey, thanks for following me. Good content, whatever." I said, "Hey, I want to make a video about you." um,
You know what? That's all it takes. I love the dude. You're totally going back to the old school of like the cold call for the podcast, right? Because that's what this moment is. Hey, I got this podcast, and I'd like to talk to you more about X that you posted online so sort of graciously, and the people often would be like, "What? Like you saw that?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Like I saw that." I love this moment. Keep going.
so he entertains me. We go back and forth, and at one point, I say to him, I kind of like, I'm like, "Do you have? It'd be cool if." Um, you're at work and you videoed some of what you do, how you do it, or whatever. And then we're going back and forth. And I don't know why, but at one point I just said to him, I'm like, I don't want any money. Like, I don't want anything from you. Um, because it got into, well, what would you need and how would we do this? And long story short, it ends up, I'm like, you know what? I just looked at your entire feed. You've got enough, you've got enough photos there that I'm going to do something with it. He's like, "Epic." Okay. I sent him some samples of stuff I've created over the years just to give him a flavor and of like the types of things I've done, how I do them. And anyway, so this guy that I've never met before, Brady, I'm gonna make him a video. Just like I'm gonna put together, I'm just gonna play with his content and put something together, and I guess I just there's something about it that is, there's no pressure in terms of I'm not getting anything for it. I'm not getting anything. I am getting something. I get to be creative and play, but it's all on my terms as usual. He's down. He's like, "Shit, dude, go for it. Like, go for it." And I think, I don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. But I was just like, yeah, I'm just feeling creative. I think I've told you, I've been wanting to make something, but I haven't found like the inspiration or the right story to go with it. Like, something's going on because even yesterday I put together a couple of 45-second videos on each one of my kids since Christmas. I just kind of just made something. And they're like, "Dad, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just messing." Literally, I'm just on the phone, just messing around and sending it to them. And they were like, "This is super cool. What made you?" I'm like, "I just in the mood. I feel like being creative and this is what I want to do." So, yeah, you saying something about the drone helped, but I was feeling something. I think that it happens. Like I told you, this March break has been wide open for me. I put almost no expectations on this week in terms of getting stuff done, doing things. It's been very open. Both of the boys have not had a lot of commitments for skiing or hockey, so it's been quiet that way. Yeah, it's been just like very low key, and I something about it tells me that I needed that. Or I've been taking full advantage of whatever this is. So anyway, just wanted to share some creative. Um, it's kind of a cool experiment for people on Twitter who post a lot of content about certain things. I can
Mhm.
take that and do something with it. And hopefully they can enjoy what I create at the end, right? I don't know if that's the other thing too. Like, it'd be nice if they liked it, but they don't have to like it.
Mhm.
It's really also cool the ideas that come flashing into my head. I'm sure the same thing happens to you, except it's poetry. Well, that's
Mhm.
not true. You do visual art, but yeah, but the way like you can take somebody can give you a sentence or something, and then you just write. I can see the neurons banging off in your head with the different ideas, different things happening. It's kind of cool. It's also like I never considered myself creative. I don't maybe because I was always comparing myself to other people that I thought were creative. But then I think this is imagine being 15 years old and these things are cracking off in your head. Like for me that is fascinating because that's what I think has happened to these people back when I was in high school and they were doing creative and I wasn't in the same
Mhm.
way. I'm like, is this what was happening in their head? Like just ideas and then you organize them and you try to find ways to get them to come out.
Yeah, I would if that's a question, I can answer it from my creative practice. Um, that thing that happened to you last night as your kids are like, "Yo, dad, what's going on?" And you're wrestling through like a manifestation moment. Like, how do I bring this thing that I'm noticing about my thinking? How do I bring this thing that's in my head into real life? That's a thing. That's a thing. That is my forever that is my forever struggle of having like noticing a thing or trying to create a thing or an itch that can only will only get better or will only be relieved if I manage to create something out of it. So yes, that that moment is what goes on with at least for me, as far as me telling myself I'm a creative, the creative is not here's what I'd actually say: the creative is not the output. It's the noticing that you're about to output. It's the thing that happens just before the pen hits the paper, the words start to come together, the video starts to be captured. Creativity for me, I actually find that my brain shifts very quickly from the noticing spark moment into the production. Production for me isn't creative. I find that's more of the grind. I find there's more tech. All of a sudden, as soon as the skill set kicks in and I move away from the talent of noticing, it becomes productivity. And I find like there are some, I tried a different, there was a poem I was working on while I was away, and I tried a different approach to the creative because I wanted to spend more time there. I want to spend more time in um, that open field of like, what the hell is going on when you don't even know what's going on. You just get this lit up kind of like flowy moment of grabbing a tool and seeing what you can kind of mess with. So I tried a little bit of like stream of consciousness writing about a topic. There was this moment, like a big abstract kind of idea moment that I somehow kind of attached my thinking to. And in doing that, I'm like, there's tools that I need to use in order to sort of turn this into something that I understand at a deeper level. So it's a poem about my dad. The moment is about it's a 5 a.m. Connection that I now too am someone that's up at 5 a.m. And it started to pull apart some memories of when I used a couple times I accidentally woke up that early and saw my dad downstairs just leaning against the dishwasher having his coffee in the morning, not quite awake, hair still a little disheveled. He'd only been up for about maybe 20 minutes because he would get up at 5, right? Um, and so I have that memory, and then I have a updated version of it, which is me sitting with the coffee in the morning with dad thoughts running through my head. And all of a sudden I'm connected to my own dad like 40 years ago, him standing in the kitchen in like the low light, sipping his black coffee, about to start his workday, like him about to launch. I got to sort of like take a peek at him. So I got really fascinated about this 40-year span of connection to the exact same moment. So I started writing about it and started trying to put some. I try to often what I do is, what does the picture look like? So in my poetry, I try like, what's the picture in my head? Because I find that's the first thing that's going to disappear. I can always add the theory afterwards. I've done enough reading. I've talked to enough people, so I know how that parses out according to. I don't know, but I can sort of like do the research, as in, how many dads are up early in the morning. Like I can figure out all that kind of technical stuff out. But it's like a dream state, right? You wake up and you've had this really crazy dream, and, if you don't keep Post-it notes beside the bed, that just kind of like, it just evaporates and you just get little bits of it. It's no longer cohesive, it's no longer concrete. So when I had this idea of him sort of leaning against the dishwasher, I right away had to sort of think about, what did that look like in the kitchen? Like, what was his body posture leaning against that thing? Where was his gaze? How quickly did he notice when I walked in the room? And then I back it up as I was coming down the stairs into the kitchen. What did I hear going on in the kitchen? Because those are the sounds. That's the sensuality of a poem, that I can kind of just drop little sort of like sound words into a poem that will hook other, readers or people experience the poem. They'll get it. Like I can set them up to have the same experience. And then I back it up even more. Like, did I notice anything when I was in my bed? What happened just before I opened my eyes? Did the light underneath the door kind of flicker on and off quickly, which would have been the upstairs light? Did I hear the bathroom door open? Did I hear like a stumble or a pause? And what's interesting is that I have to take these in very small pieces, because even that stumble or pause is me no longer. That's the moment I'm like, wait, that's me assuming something about my dad. Like I'm sort of changing the memory even as I'm trying to relive the memory, which we know that's what story is as a matter of fact. But I have to be cautious, because if I introduce into my poem the fact that the sliver of light below my bedroom door happened just before I heard the stumble outside my bedroom, That's an entire poem unto itself. And I've just introduced that possibility, like, why did my dad stumble? Like, what's going on with the stumbling? What was it? What did the noise look like? And that can become a distraction. So I have to watch when I sort of go too far deep into these sort of picture memories that I'm not adding in elements that for some reason I think will just make it more interesting. Can I really drive down and hold myself there just to what I remember? Because I know I'm gonna mess with that shit afterwards anyways, but I want to get that good crystal memory. Um, and I like doing that. I like doing that. But in this case, I just kind of did some free association writing, and then I'm going to go back through the free association writing because it's like 2.5 pages long, which is not that's not fun to read. That's good journaling, but that's not fun to read in a poem. Someone's random, memories. I wouldn't find. I'll just go. I wouldn't find it interesting. So I got to go back through, and I got to find what's the 15 or 20 lines in here that are actual, excuse me, useful. So there you go. Another little my process.
Your description of your father waking up and having the coffee reminds me of a parallel example of as well of watching my dad in the kitchen, the one light's on over his head, and he's sipping on his coffee and just still half asleep and trying to wake himself up and just observing. Very interesting. And it reminds me, funny story of the time. Sorry, everything you said, I appreciate everything you said, but it's led me like a direct line to memories of my dad early in the morning,
Mhm,
which is a gift because you're talking about your gift and your dad, and then it leads to memories that I have of my dad. And the I can't tell the whole story on the podcast, but the memory of me being at home early morning from work as a security guard and my father like like discovering me there and being like, I'm half asleep, but I know you're not supposed to be here right now. What's going on? Type of thing.
mhm,
And it's that contrast of me being uber awake and him being uber asleep. Um, Good times for sure. But I just, when I think about, when I look at my creative flow now, I'm able to pick up um, clues that it was in me when I was younger. I'm able to pick up clues in high school. Um, Me and some of my buddies, we did we made a video for fun, and at that time they were taking a course where they had access to um, the computers and the software to do the editing and the layering and the music and all that. I wasn't part of that class, but I helped make a video just about goings on around the school, and I liked it. And then in teachers college, um, I guess I was vlogging before vlogging was a thing. We get to teachers college, and for some reason, I don't know how this happened, I ended up in like the AV section of the school and found out that I could sign out a video camera. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you just fill out this form, give us your student card, and we'll sign it out to you. I'm like, okay. And then I was documenting teachers college, and I wanted to show my parents what was happening while I was gone. And I created it was a vlog. I basically this camera went everywhere with me, and I got footage of my classmates and in the different classes and stuff. I've got the VHS somewhere in the house. I don't know where it is, but um there were bits and pieces of that along the way. And I guess here and there I try to tease apart why I didn't chase it, um and all that stuff, right? But now I can do everything on my phone. I can do it all on my phone, and that's really convenient. And so it's right there for me whenever I want it, which is really cool. Um, yeah, lots of stuff coming from this talk on creative and how it works and how it flows. The drone's got to get up. I just don't know where and when. I do want it out there though. I want to collect some footage. I want to go fast. I have this vision in my mind. I can see the shot actually. I can see the shot. I can see the location. I just want to go fast. Which then reminded me about me and you talking about skiing and snowboarding. Um, when when I think of skiing for me, I think I'm careful, but it's fast enough that I feel like I'm experiencing something that I don't get to experience normally. I really like that idea, that controlled speed. And I know that both of my boys would be like, "Dad, you're slow as shit." And I'm like, it's fast enough for me to feel like I'm living on the edge. So that's good enough for me. And I can get up and go to work the next day and not be in complete pain. Um, so yeah, man, you got me thinking about all that stuff. It's kind of nice on this Saturday, the last Saturday before we go back to work. And I don't even dislike my work. That's the other thing too. Like I've been talking to some people who are like, darn, I gotta go back to work. I don't feel I don't feel that I don't want to call it negativity, but that like return to the grind. I'm not feeling it the same way.
Bro, it's buyer's remorse. That's what it is. That's what I'm starting to see it as. Buyer's remorse. You knew exactly the right amount to get into the business, and there's elements of it now that you're just like, well, I don't know if it's for me. I think the difference being is that we actually have the power to adjust that. So it's not like as is, you bought it and you don't, because you actually, it loses no value. It's not like you walk it out the door and you give back that, like, okay, there's going to be a ten buck administrative fee to turn it back in. You can actually make change pretty darn quickly and not feel that exact kind of like, oh, damn. That's the one thing that I'll say. I've never regretted going in on a Monday. I haven't. It's just kind of how I look at work. I don't I just it I see it naturally as a necessary part to be able to like work. Like I don't get any of the shit I've got unless I work. there's no there's nobody that's going to hand me the money to sort of satisfy the things I want to do in my life. And I know that there's been a whole lot of little helping hands along the way, including, privilege. But I've never left on a Friday. This is just me. Never left on a Friday and thought, thank God it's the weekend. Like somehow I've earned an escape from my life, from my work. Um, so yeah, buyer's remorse. That's the best, probably the best way that I can kind of understand why people do that. Because I don't think they're part of it is it's the only way that I can understand why someone would actually say something like that. That they've kind of forgotten what the job is about, like what the work is about, or and they won't accept what the work has become, right? Like somehow the thing that you agreed to when you came in, it's going to stay that way. And we know it don't. We know.
Well, I have to say that I'm happy for you that you've not experienced that because it sucks.
Hmm.
I've had both. I've had you leave on a Friday and you thanking God Almighty that it's the weekend, that you don't have to go to work the next day. You can do other things. And I've also felt leave on Friday and think, oh, I get a couple of days away from work, but it's not gonna. I mean, I've always felt like there are some. It's nice to have 2 days where I don't have to go to work. And there are other things happening that I prefer to do than go to work. So I don't see that as a I don't see that as like a negative. I just see that as that's a fact. It's a fact. Saturdays and Sundays I don't go to work. I do other things that are planned for Saturdays and Sundays. But no, when I hear you, I think, well, you're a lucky guy because I've had both, and that feeling, that relief that you feel on a Friday afternoon, it is like big time dopamine inducing. And then that waking up on Monday and dragging yourself to the car so you can get to work is not a it's not good. It's not good. Um, yeah. I don't know what more to say on that. That's just
Yeah, I think any work can bring that mindset in, right? And like any sort of work. Um, I don't know, connected, maybe not connected. So yesterday we're getting ready to go to the escape room, and Jake says to me, "So are you really excited to go to the escape room?" I'm like, "Nope." And he sort of looked at me. He's like, I said, do I know, do I know that I'm going to enjoy it? Yeah. Cause I've done it before. I said, but I'm not particularly looking forward to it. And part of what was a really great example of that is that at the moment that he asked me that, I was actually listening to a song by New Order, and I was really enjoying listening to the song. So it's a funny kind of little split in your mindset at that point, right? Because I get the joy of my son wanting to do the escape room. And I will say, kudos to him, my daughter and their friend Kira, because they carried the team last night. We got out of the escape room, we escaped, and it was on their knowledge that we got out. Karen and I did not notice enough or pay attention to enough to do it on our own. And even as they're describing to us how to solve a couple of the puzzles, we're like, what do you do? And they're like, oh yeah, you just do this, and they're doing to us, which I'm sure I've done to countless individuals before, when there's this really complex concept that someone's wrestling with, and I make the mistake of saying, "Oh, it's simple, don't worry." And just saying those 2 words totally lights them up. They're like, "This is not simple." And I may not be worrying, but I'm bugged by the fact that I don't understand this thing. And then I realize I've already kind of, as they say, kind of shot myself in the foot. I'm like, I got to back that up. I got to back that up, because as I pause, I'm like, it isn't simple. I've just been able to sit with it longer. So the certain things don't trigger. So they're sort of like saying, yeah, you do this and this. And we're like, stop, you're blowing up our minds. And they carried the day. They carried the day. So how did I start on this? Oh, going into, looking forward to it. I was really enjoying this New Order song, because it was like one of those, I had totally forgotten that that song existed, which was cool, right? Like I was like, damn, I like this song. I don't even know how I found out about it. So in the moment when he asked if I was looking forward to going to that, it interrupted my actual presence of enjoying the thing that was in front of me. And I'm doing this analysis now. And those moments where you choose to inject or sort of like invest in a future joy, if it strips you of your current joy, and that's what the moment was actually playing out. I stopped listening to the song. I press pause on, the headphone. I lose that flow and that, like, just like, I love this song, right? And then I'm in a conversation about something that hasn't happened yet. I've left a good thing to infer about another thing. And I don't know if that's, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I'm picking it apart now, but as I'm saying the words, like, that happens all the time. Leaving a moment in order to set up the next moment, and leaving the moment before you fully have sort of like sucked all the juice out of it. Dude, there was still a minute and a half left of that song. Now, I will say I listened to it today, this morning when I was working out. I went back in, I found it because I think it was maybe it was like when I first heard a part, like sometimes on my iPhone, I'll listen to like the radio station part function on it. So it's just like songs playing, someone's kind of playing with it, or someone else has set up the playlist. So coming across, I'm like, okay, this is the universe saying, like, yo, start to check out the back catalog of New Order, which is a band I loved as a kid. But it was funny. I can't tell you why I stopped loving them or stopped following them. It's like that snowboard conversation you asked me about it. Like, why'd you stop? Why'd you stop snowboarding? I'm like, I don't know. I think it was probably, as I'm pulling this apart now, me leaving a moment to move to the next moment of enjoyment and thinking like in order to do that, I have to sort of give something away or do something. Now, the way I kind of parse that other one out is like we were going traveling. So I was trying to get extra money to sort of go traveling with my then girlfriend, my now spouse, my wife, Karen. So there was, I guess, an injected purpose to it. But really, as I'm sitting up at Horseshoe this past couple days and I'm watching everyone just like coming down the hill, and I'm like, that I remember when I used to do that. I'm like, why did I stop doing that? Probably I wasn't really looking at the moment. I was investing in a future joy that I didn't really have a handle on, but I thought I should. I thought I should act that way. So thanks for taking me back there. I love that you've sort of introduced this. I am going to I am going to get equipment, and I am going to not only, I'll offer it up to my kids if they want to try doing it too, but I'm not going to do it for my kids. I'm going to do it because I actually want to get back out on the board again. And if they come with me to come and hit the slopes with you, great. If they don't, I'll come and hit the slopes with you. I like that as a common purpose. I head out your way or you come out my way, or we just find a way to kind of like seriously, dude, think about that. We friggin' meet up at, Blue Mountain, or meet like at, at a bigger place. Like I love that idea. That's a future joy I can invest in. Because right now, like I'm good with the podcast, but I feel like I'm not stripping the current joy in order to get there. That's cool.
I'm glad that I could help move you into a positive thinking space. That's good
Hmm.
stuff.
That's going to cost me money, but I'm okay with that.
Well, I mean, ultimately, you get to make the decision, right? Nobody's holding the gun to your head. So
No, no.
you, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I think, like, I tell you right now, my kids would be like, we're going to Blue Mountain. And since we're going to Blue Mountain, you're telling us we're going to stay overnight because it's not worth just going for the day. Like, I could see them being like super pumped over something like this because for me,
Yeah.
it would be, it would be like I see the skiing or the snowboarding or whatever to be more of a family thing, minus my wife because she's not interested in any of it. But my boys, I don't even think, I think just the mere dropping the idea they'd be in the car before I finish the sentence, just because they're itching to go somewhere else and ski type of thing. But
Hmm.
anyway, it's me talking their language, I guess. But that's cool that it's got you thinking. I was like, just when I brought it up, I was like, I wonder why you've never. I wonder what happened. I wonder, like, since you used to snowboard and used to instruct, I just figured
Hmm.
you'd say to your kids, "Hey, you guys want to give this a go?" Especially the younger they are, the cheaper all the equipment is. Like I remember when Ben started, which is hilarious because I've been here. Let me see if I can find it while I chat with you. When Ben started, he was so young. Everything was just cheap. Like everything. Um, the coats, the helmets, everything. So it was like even the pass to get him on the hill was cheap because he was so young that somebody had to go with him, right? So
Hmm.
you spend the money on the adult pass. The kid pass is no biggie because the kid can't go alone. But anyway, um, I don't. Yeah, I'm like, That's I know it's a gateway. Lots of people start their kids off because it's so cheap, and then the kids become good at it, and then that's when you got to start dropping real money. Like I'm going off topic now, but I don't know. 2 weeks ago, we got an email. 3 weeks ago, we got an email. My son and I from a ski store in Ontario, and they're like, "Big blowout sale this weekend." So I looked at them. I'm like, "If you can find skis and bindings that you like, and they're the right price, I'll pull the trigger and I'll buy you your new stuff for next year." And he was like, again, before I finished the sentence, he was on his phone flipping through, and then he found skis. He's like, "These are the ones. These are the ones." Uh, I'm
Hmm.
like, "Okay." And so he's got himself a new pair of skis. And it was funny because the rest of the family looked at me like, "What did you just do?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What did I just do? This is what he does. He skis. How's he supposed to get equipment? It's like his little brother plays hockey. I buy him equipment whenever he needs it. I don't even think twice. So why don't I do that for the older one?" It was very interesting because they're looking at me like, "You did what?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm kind of excited for him. And they're like, they it's just viewed differently. I'm like, he needs equipment too. Just like the little one needs equipment for what he does, the big one needs equipment for what he does. Anyway, so I can't find the picture right now, but it is hilarious because he's this little weenie dude and he's happy as all can be. And I swear there's no more than with his clothes, probably no more than $200. Pass,
Yeah.
skis, boots, helmet,
Yeah.
clothing.
Yeah.
And and then the lessons, which I was fortunate enough to get for next to nothing at the time. But and now it's turned into, well, it's
Yep.
it's expensive.
Yeah. I
It's not
started
cheap.
looking. I started looking, just kind of scanning, because part of it too is one of the things, at least for me, is that I now know. Like, at the time, my first board, so I've had 2 boards. The first one was kinda crappy, and I broke it right away. Then I got another one in the same season. Both, were used, right? But neither one of them would be the board that I could ride now because of my size and height. So, I have to get something that's, you know, I need a wider board because 'cause my boot's gonna be at least size 11, so it's not like you can strap that on a very narrow board, so it's gotta be a little bit more girthy. It needs to be a little bit longer because the old rule of just below your chin is no longer a thing. You have to use some different metrics. So there was some stuff in the beginning that I was just like, "Yeah, throw $200 at a board with boots and I'm good," right? So stuff has changed, so that helps and hurts because it clarifies, it narrows the field of as far as what I should be buying, but it also puts me in a tier where I'm like, yeah, even for myself, like I don't need the jacket. My helmet, my skateboarding helmet, I have to check to see if it has, because one of us, myself or Jake or Maddie, bought a helmet that's it's made for both, and you can get things that strap onto it that will allow you to sort of like to have like the goggle fastener at the back that'll just hold it. Like it's both, but I don't think I have that. So I do have a helmet, which I could wear the skateboard helmet. I've seen other people do it, but do I want the right thing so that I'm not hurting myself, right? And I did see some parents without helmets on the hill. They're just wearing their toque. But I'll probably play with safety. So I would need a helmet and the boots and the board. I have mitts, the mitts that I actually bought myself just to it's funny though, the mitts that I bought to snow blow are perfect for snowboarding because I got the warm ones. I got the thick warm ones, right?
Did I
It's just
tell you? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's just funny, eh? Like when you start to go, I have the right gear because I have the right gear because I'm a dad.
Right.
The dad details cross back over the exact thing that no 16-year-old on the hill right now is thinking to themselves, because that stuff is only for snowboarding. I'm in the mode like, no, the toque's got to be good for blowing snow, for taking out the garbage, and work when I'm on the hill.
Did I tell you about my son's new mitts that he got for skiing and what
No,
happened with that?
no.
Okay, so my
I
son
already don't like the story, but go.
oh, no, it's a good story. It's
Okay.
good. So my son comes home one night from his volunteer work and he's like, I need new mitts. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. So what's going on with the old mitts? So his mom bought him these really nice ski mitts, but they were absolutely soaked and he had to go skiing the next day. And it was like, this is ridiculous. Why are they so soaked? So he starts explaining to me, well, on the inside it's my sweat and on the outside it's just the conditions. And I'm like, these were really expensive mitts. They shouldn't be like this, right?
Mhm,
So I'm like, okay, entertain me. I'm ready to listen to you because I'm looking at the condition of the quote unquote really good mitts your mom bought for you, and now show me these new mitts that you want. So the new mitts are like leather on the outs, like brown leather on the outside. You can tell they're. As soon as I looked at them, like, oh, those are perfect for snow blowing, is what I thought. Okay, so they're mitts
that's
on the
awesome.
outside, but on the inside they're gloves. So they're glove mitts.
Okay.
Okay, and they're made by they're Thinsulate and they're made by a reputable company and on and on and on. So I'm like, how do you end up finding these? He goes, well, it was a collab. A ski company is working with a mitt company, and these are like limited. And I'm like, okay, okay. So I'm like, start searching online. So he finds a pair in Canada for like, I don't know, 60 or 70 bucks, which I'm like, for what they are and what they're going to be used for, it's reasonable.
Actually, I thought they were gonna be more. Seriously, I
Okay,
thought they're gonna be more, yeah.
so did I initially, but for some reason he found the right size. I think they're they're past their initial start date. So like it was a collab. They made a bunch, they sold a bunch, and now I guess this one place in BC's like we have some more. We got to get rid of them. Like we're not going to
Mm,
hold on to these forever, right? So
mhm.
he finds them, we order them, and the shipping's stupid. The
Yeah.
shipping it's dumb. So I'm like, so, he tells me what it's gonna cost with shipping to Ontario, and I'm like, "Okay, well, okay." So, I swallow that, and I'm like, "Let's do it." So we pull the trigger. The package comes, and he's all excited, like, I let him go to the mailbox to get it, and I'm like, "Okay, when you open the package." This is something I don't know if you've had to teach your kids this, but I've taught my kids, when you open a package you're excited about and there's clothing inside, don't just get the scissors and start cutting, because you don't know inside where the perimeters are of where the clothes like you could cut your new stuff. So I'm like, you just need to breathe and be strategic. So I look at him, I'm like, be strategic in how you open that package. Cause if you cut those, like you're screwed. I'm not buying you new ones and you're paying me back and on and on. The asshole dad in me comes out, right? So he opens them up. He's like, Dad, I'm like, what? He goes, you bought two pairs? I'm like, no, I bought one pair for you. He goes, there are two in the bag. I'm like, what? So then I look at the receipt and then I check my credit card to make sure the numbers are that the way they are. Because if I ordered two, I'm like, damn, like I didn't mean to buy. That's double the cost, right? For some reason, somehow, some way, I paid for what I believed was one, and I got two. He's like, "What are you gonna do with the second?" I'm like, "What do you think? They're mine, baby." Like, I'm loving this. So I put them on, the right size for me as well. It's that waterproof leather on the outside that when you break it in, these could be mitts that last forever because you're like, these are my mitts, right? So he's super pumped that he's got cool ski mitts, but then he takes them out on a horrible day. Gets back to the car. I'm like, "How'd they hold up?" He goes, "The outside is wet, but because it's leather, none of it got in." So he's like, "The inside's still warm. My hands were warm the whole time." And I'm like, bonus. That's what we want. So, and long story short, I end up getting these cool gloves, mitt gloves, and I wore them to walk him from the car to the hill. And then I'm hanging out, and all his buddies are like, "Whoa, your dad's got them too?" Like, all of a sudden, I had some street credit with the 15 to 18-year-olds because I was wearing these gloves, these mitts, and they're like, "Does he want them?" And my son's like, "You wouldn't even be able to pry him off his dead hands. Like, he's gonna snowblow with those things." There's my
Can't get
story.
can't
So I
get them to
won.
wear mitts. Yeah, can't get them to wear mitts or hat walking to school on a blizzard -72 day, but you put them on the hill. Put them on the hill. Gotta have the mitts.
It's gotta be you have to have there's nothing worse than being out doing winter stuff with equipment that just doesn't satisfy and leaves you feeling like just upset. It's the worst thing ever. Um,
Mhm.
it's the worst thing ever. So we've solved his mitt problem.
I appreciate that it grew relative to the experience though. So I go the same way with my kids. Like they both had crappy scooters. And then Jake, like they had the Razor scooters, and then Jake's like, okay, this scooter's rattling when I try to do the bowl. So we basically went from like $100 scooter to a just under $400 scooter. And watching him on it, you're like, there's the difference.
Mm,
It's stable, it's smooth, it it's responsive, as in what you put in, you get out, right? It doesn't stand in the way of your skill development. So he's good, right? Mad was the same way. She used a little bit of my skateboard, and then she's like, okay, I think I want to do this on my own. So then we got her own skateboard and her own pad system and her own helmet. And just sort of I get on one hand, I mean, here's the trippy part to this, right? On one hand, I entirely agree with you. And then on the other hand, I'm like, I totally disagree because everyone should go through the process of using crappy equipment because the good equipment doesn't make you a better rider. It just makes you look like you're fancy, right? So I like the whole show me that your skill set or that your skills are being hampered by this, and I'm in. I'm in. I'll help you out. But just because it's about color scheme or it's the whole Fortnite mindset, it's just something that's a surface addition. It's cosmetic. I'm not in. I'm not in. So show me that your skills are sort of being, or your skills or your fun specifically relative to the actual exercise, not the actual character of the exercise. Like I don't need either of my kids to have any swagger as a snowboarder. I don't need them to start rocking that, but I do want them to have that thrill, that energy of like cruising down the hill and just making the board do what you want it to do, right? Like that's the gift. That's the gift.
So two things there. The first one is that I totally experienced watching him ski this year, especially at the end when he was doing his instructor exam. I was like, I was like, my kid's a rad skier. Like
Mhm.
he can ski. Watching him go backwards and all. I'm like, holy cow! Like I don't know if he truly knows. Like watching him parallel and stuff, I'm like, this kid can ski, but I don't know if he understands. I don't know if he'll understand till he's like 10 years down the road. And he's like, hey, shit, like I had some skills.
Mhm.
Um, that's the first thing. So I'm more than happy to support. It's the same with the little one with hockey. It's like when you go buy skates, it's like I'm not buying you $800 skates, but I'm also not getting you $100 skates because I know that those are gonna hamper you. They're not
Yeah,
gonna
you're not
give
they're,
you
they're
what
not
you
there anymore, right? That's
yeah.
not.
You're at a level where you need you need decent and you need it has to serve its purpose for you to operate a certain way, but you're not getting $800 custom skates. Like that's not happening.
Mhm.
It's the same with the skiing, except the skiing like pick your skis for next season, find the sale. Because if you tell me that these skis are this much and there's no sale, I'm not buying them
Mhm.
because I that's insane. I don't do that for your little brother. I'm not doing it for you. kind of thing. Unless you wanna here's the thing, you wanna ante up and you wanna supply some of this funding, I'm open. So you wanna buy skis that aren't on sale? I'm gonna pay a sale price and you're gonna add in the rest? Okay, like I negotiate. But the gloves really bothered me. I so bothered. I came home and I said to my wife, I'm like, talk to me about these mitts that you bought them. She's like, she's telling me all about them. I'm like, hun, they're absolutely soaked. It's like they're not doing their job. They're not supposed to be soaked. I'm like, and he's got to go skiing tomorrow. And it was like a constant. It just seemed he was volunteering one night and then the next day he was going for a ski team with his school. I'm like, how is he gonna make sure these are dry enough? And then when he gets home from skiing, they're gonna be soaked again. I'm like, this is well, who makes mitts like that? Like they I'm like, these are garbage. And supposedly they're good mitts. What he's got now, I'm like, for God's sake, where have these things? I mean, I guess we could have found him leather mitts, but they would have been, 50-year-old man mitts, not 16-year-old skier mitts. I don't know, but long story short, we found something for I still can't believe the actual cost of the mitt. I'm like, these are really well made mitts. And
Hmm.
I assumed they were going to be double the cost. Now the shipping, wow. Maybe I could see dads being like, I'm not buying those because the shipping's unbelievable, but they are coming from out west, and it's one of those things where they got me. But I got two pairs. So now I'm like, I guess it's worth it. I don't know. The mind games we play, but I do agree with you. I do agree with the building your skill using the proper and relevant equipment and not going for, you know, and everybody's got a different opinion. I'm not going to buy you killer equipment when you start. The only unless it's cheap,
Hmm.
unless I can if I'm going to get a better material design for a great cost, I'm up for that personally.
I like that you're able to buy it to spec. Like I said, what the lesson here for me is that the equipment is entirely responsive to the skill set
Mm,
or the technical need. It's entirely responsive to that, and that type of rational, um, so it's like rational impulse purchase makes sense. You're like, we got to get it. So there's that energy, that impulse. But then you're able to say, but here's the criteria. And the criteria speaks to, it speaks outside that bubble of passion and impulse, right? So you spent money on mitts. The mitts that we do have are not serving the either the needs or the performance expectations. So we have to pivot. So we actually had to almost buy these mitts, waste our money on them, or maybe they just get used for everyday use or something, to know that they don't match up to the performance standards that my kid's at right now. It was really logical. I will say there was something in my brain though that said that's why I bought a boot and mitt heater, because those mitts would have been dry by the next day. And it literally, like, you just put it on and you turn it on and it blows the warm air and it vents them all out. Like, it's basically like a hair dryer for your clothing, and it works like the bomb.
that idea is new to me. That is not
Yeah.
something that
And I'm coming the other route, just like my kids as being avid, like they love going to the hill and just tobogganing and coming back soaked. We're like, okay, we got to do something here because they need their mitts for school tomorrow.
yeah,
So
that is new to me. That there are so many new things like that to me because growing up, that was never.
they just you just leave them either in a pile by the front door, just leave them on a heat register around the
Yeah,
house.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
put them on the heat register. That's
Because
what we
my
did
family
with his
wasn't paying
gloves.
for the dryer. They're
No,
like, no, 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 no. You can hang those and let them dry. And the next morning you're like, my gloves are still wet.
that was that. So for me, when you talk about this tool, this machine that can dry things like
Magical. Say it.
appropriately.
This magical machine.
It is magical to me, and I would totally invest in that. But that is new to me.
Mhm.
I'm surprised my wife didn't suggest it. Maybe she doesn't know about it either because I can't see her parents having bought something like that when they were kids.
Yeah. There's different ones. Yeah, when we got it, Karen kind of laughed, but then we used it a couple times and it worked really well. Like you could put it anywhere you want in the house. Like it's just a portable unit, plug it in, and it literally looks like there's just these tubes that come straight up off of it, and there's like an attachment that there's this one attachment for hats. It actually looks like a ball, and you can put
Hmm.
the hat over it. So it's cool. It works. But either way, that I would say, unlike the high performance mitts, because the mitts that we got for them were just fine, is because they would take them off and like get snow inside, like all this stuff that just you can't help as a kid, but just getting wet. Um, so but it worked out okay.
Um, yeah, being 16 years old, sometimes my style doesn't fit with
Mhm.
his wanting to look a certain way.
Yep.
And hey, thanks, buddy. Okay, I got my son to get the gloves. This is awesome. The mitts. Sorry, I don't know, glove mitts. But like, I love it. Like, look at the construction. They've got like it's
Carabiner there.
a carabiner there, and it's got the leather with like the metal inside, so these things aren't going anywhere. And then, like, the fact that I'm super pumped about this, everybody in the family was like, "Oh, if Dad's excited, we don't know if we should be either." But like, everything is just, it is so well made, and then you put them on.
Is that a
Oh
leash? So you can put that leash around your wrist and just let
yes,
them hang? That's hilarious.
yes.
That's a nice ad. That's a nice ad.
Everything about them. It's like a quality mitt. Like everything. I couldn't believe it, and I'm looking at my son. I'm like, "You want these?" Like when I was reading about them online and stuff, and then when they came, I was like, "Really?" And then he wondered, like everything, the double stitching. He's like, "Do I want these if my dad is so excited?" I'm like, "Dude, there's nothing wrong with good quality stuff. It's
It's
just
true.
sometimes you're picking stuff that I don't believe is good quality. I just believe it's meant for your 16-year-old brain to think it's cool, and that's all you see and feel because you're 16. I get that. I
Mhm.
totally get that. But I'm past that now. Um, yeah, I don't I don't know, bro. I'm pumped. Um, I'm pumped, but even the smell, it's got it all, man. It's got it all.
Rich
Anyway,
mahogany.
I text my son. I'm like, "Hey, can you grab my new mitts? Why? I need to show them on the podcast." It's funny. That was nice of him to be so responsive too. He's not
Yeah,
usually
that
that
was great.
responsive.
That's great.
Okay, I got to tell you one more thing before we
Okay.
go.
Yep.
I've lost I've lost the podcast notes for the last, I don't know how many episodes since the last
Mm.
time I posted on the blog. So I don't have, I mean, I've got bits here and there, but I think for most of them, they are just, I was cleaning up the room. I don't know where I put the papers. Long story short, let me be Jimmy with you instead of Frank.
All right.
I think that I know you don't really, I don't think you care, but the descriptions for those blog posts are going to be very like, I'm going to call them the Lost Podcast Notes episode.
The Lost Casts.
The Lost Casts, just so you know. Um,
Mhm.
and I got to tell you that grind, I'm not a fan of, I'm not a fan of that grind. Doing that stuff for this podcast, not a fan at all.
Mhm.
Anyway, I just wanted to fill you in.
I'm all good, dude. I'm all good. Yeah, it doesn't phase me. I look at the volume of things that I haven't. organized here with these pictures, and I think to myself, like that's just something that I got to figure out how to get back to it. I don't know. Maybe I bring them with me to school. And I know there's a high res scanner that the photography teacher said that you're more than welcome to use it. And I just go in on a PD day and, kind of do my prep out of the art room and just scan, 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 scan and get it all up to date. Because I would like to have the digitals. I would love to have the digitals. I would love to have the digitals posted somewhere. I would love just to see the body of work all in one place, like just have it up on the screen, which I know I can sit and I can look at them here, right? I don't have to have it digital, but I know for me, digital kind of makes sense. It's just a little more useful to have it in a digital format so that I can consume it whenever I want to. And the digital format, I don't need the tactility of holding my paper to kind of appreciate it more. It would just be cool to have all the images in um scanned well. That's all. So I get it. But I don't worry about it. Sometimes just say to myself, that's for retirement. I'll do that when I'm retired, when I don't have other things that I'd like to be working on. So
Retirement
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a thing, right? It is a thing. Ish, kind of.
ish. You still
Yeah.
have a little bit of time. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to retire sooner rather than later. I don't know.
I really don't know. I'm non-committal to it. I know that practically speaking, it would not be great for me to retire before my kids are kind of done with whatever until they're on their post-secondary path, right? It would just financially, it wouldn't be wise to do that, I don't think. So, um, yeah, that's just yeah, I just have to kind of sort of exist with that because it's to sort of have them the complications of moving them. It really comes down to the finances to have to sort of think about, okay, um how will sort of investing in this thing potentially impact money that Karen and I might need. And I'm not saying that I did because the compulsion is I'm going to pay for it, but then I have to sort of decide, okay, this affects quality of our life when we no longer have benefits. We know, you're right, all those kind of things, complications of being retired and no longer being on the EDU pipeline. So
The EDU pipeline. I like that. It's a good one.
yeah.
What did you draw today, Chris? Let me get well. Hey, EDU, get well soon. Interesting. A get well soon card
Mhm.
for educators.
For all of EDU, baby.
Oh, educators, administrators, admin assistants, custodians.
All of us, if we're coming back from the break, and I have a high suspicion I'm going to encounter people that will not feel broken in the right ways. They didn't break out, they didn't chip away, they didn't get whatever they sort of thought they needed from the break. I'm going to meet those people. I'm going to have the other people that are like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm more in that camp. I did enjoy and felt I was present for this whole thing. Um, it's funny for me to say it's present, then I can't say it was too long or was like it wasn't long enough.
Hmm.
I would say it felt I don't know exactly how my body's supposed to measure time, but I was there for the whole thing. I got memories from each day. Wanted to tell you just before we bust out, if you ever get a chance to go check out that play, The Land Acknowledgement, bro,
Hmm.
it was amazing. It was amazing. Cliff Cardinal, props, props. This is a piece of theater that um I'm even cautious to call it theater because he's speaking from his own truth and lived experience. Uh as a Irish Cree uh playwright, it was just it was good. It was a really good provocative piece. So it did everything that I like theater to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it felt so real to be in the room and listen to him. Sorry, not felt. It was real. He was keeping it real for everybody to the point where he's cracking jokes. And I thought, like, I laugh and I'm like, I don't like, damn, he set me up. Like, I don't think I was supposed to laugh, but he totally knew I would laugh because I'm a white guy and he's sort of like, yeah, it was so well. He's scathing and he's to the point and he smiles at you as he does it. And it's just that thing of knowing. You know what? In a vague way, it's like on that on ramp calling you the gamekeeper and dealing with sometimes the disappointment of our children and they want to poke and prod and try and make the situation different than what it was. There's no arguing with reality with that game, and that's what he was playing us all as audience members. We were in he was entirely showing us the game board, and sometimes the reaction of laughing was the right thing. Other times it was just like I was dead silent. I'm like, yeah, that's something that he's telling directly to me and other white folks. Like
Hmm.
it was fascinating, and but just a good piece of theater. So
Awesome.
that's my story.
You sticking to it?
I'm gonna stick to it for now, bro.
Excellent. Well, until next time,
Yeah,
this was season 6, episode 25, number 243. Thanks for checking out the Decoded podcast. Chris, have a wonderful return to work on Monday,
you too, man.
and we'll catch you later. Peace.
Ciao.